Leo Taxel, what are all the courses or training that cover communication in Scientology? Success through communication and the TRs, or are there more? I ask because I routinely hear this mentioned as a positive gain of Scientology that hooked people. Do you think communication is one thing Scientology actually helps people with, or is the hypnotizing element of it too damaging? Okay, there's a number of courses in Scientology that have these drills on the courses. As part of the course, you do these drills called the TRs, or the training routines. And the ones that deal with communication are TRs 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so there's these 5 basic drills that cover communication. There are other TRs or other training routines that cover other things, but we won't talk about those right now. So there are different levels of skill with these drills, in the same way that there's different levels of skills with all kinds of drills. You could do, fireman drills where you could drill, rolling out a hose and pointing it at something that's, burning and then shooting water at it, right? You could do a drill to do that. And the first time you do those kind of drills, or the earlier levels of those drills, might be simply, unrolling the fire hose and taking it out and pointing it and, learning how to do just that very basic, simple action. And then you get good at it, and then, okay, good, so now you know how to do that. And then they take it to the next level where you run with the hose, and there's an actual fire there, and you got to actually turn it on and put it out, right? And then you eventually get up to a level where, blindfolded, you can run into a building with a fire hose, and it's on, and you can control it, and you can put out, some fire that consumes an entire room. Which, if you try to do that on your first day, you'd just be a blithering mess, right? You'd probably let go of the thing, and it would knock you upside the head and kill you, right? So there's levels of these, and it's the same way in Scientology, right? With these training routines. The Success Through Communications course is the very, very most basic communications course in Scientology. That's the one that all the public do when they first get into Scientology if they want to do a communications class. It has a number of these. The TR 0 to 4 are broken down into simpler drills, and they're not quite TR 0 to 4. They're kind of a watered down version of them. So, for example, you don't sit there for hours and hours sitting there looking at somebody else, right? And there isn't really a lot of the bull bait that we'll talk about, right? That doesn't really happen a lot on the Success Through Communications course, or the STCC course, right? So that just gives you a dash of communication skills, but it teaches you how to look at somebody else when you're talking to them, be looked at by somebody else when you're talking to somebody, teaches you how to deliver a command or a question so that the other person actually does get it, they do hear you. And also, when they say something back to you, it teaches you to, acknowledge them, to say, okay, I got it, or I heard you, or thank you, or you say something back to the person so they're not sitting there going, did you hear me or not, And it teaches you other, skills like how to get your question answered and that sort of thing, right? So that's your STCC course. Now, when you move into the upper levels where you're going into more what they call major services in Scientology, right? The Academy course room. You go from the public courses, which is Division 6 of Scientology, the newbies, right? The noobs, to now you're going to do real Scientology. Now you're moving into this course room that they call the Academy, and that's in Division 4. In that place, the first level of communications classes is what's called the TRs and Objectives co-audit course, or what I don't have that anymore now. Now they call it the Survival Rundown. Basically, it's the earliest level where you're hitting those TRs 0 to 4, right? And you're introduced to those actual training routines where you sit down TR 0 and you confront somebody else, and then TR 1 where you deliver a command across to somebody, and then TR 2 where you receive a communication from somebody and you acknowledge it, and then TR 3 where you say the same question over and over again, to somebody, and then TR4 where you're doing this repetitive questioning, and the person might throw things at you that you don't expect, see coming, and you have to deal with that and then get back onto your question, so that if somebody's trying to distract you or something like that, you can still deal with that and get back to your question. And all of that is designed to teach you how to be an auditor, an auditor in Scientology, so you can actually run Scientology processes. You're not expected to walk around in life saying, "Do birds fly? Do birds fly? Do birds fly?" That would be crazy. But in an auditing session in Scientology, there are many auditing processes that require you to ask the same question over and over and over again. There could be a process like recall a time that was really real to you, right? And the guy goes, "Oh yeah, when I graduated high school," and you go, "Great. Recall a time that was really real to you." And the guy goes, "Oh well, a time when I got married, that was really real." "Great. Recall a time that was really real to you," right? And the auditor's going to continue asking the same question. And this could go on for a really long time. And the guy the guy who's getting audited keeps looking for answers. So that all begins on that first level course, right? And when the drills are done, when the TRs are done on that course, they're done not as tough as they could be, right? They're done at a fairly light gradient or a light level of toughness. Just enough really to get the guy to be able to do it and be able to run an auditing session with another person so that they can get themselves into auditing and start doing Scientology on each other. That's what the whole purpose of that is called. That's why it's called a co-audit, where I audit you, you audit me, and we're auditing each other back and forth. So it's really just getting your foot in the pool and sort of getting going on it. The next level up from that is the professional TRs course, where you go to the professional level. And that's where you're considered learning how to do these TRs at a level where you're supposed to be able to handle any situation with communication alone, right? With just these TRs 0 to 4. So you're supposed to be able to confront anybody, no matter what they're doing, no matter what they're saying to you. And this is where you do the 2 hours of staring at somebody. And it has to be perfect, and you can't flub it, you can't mess it up, you can't blink or twitch or fidget or be moving around or anything. And of course people blink their eyes, don't get me wrong, but they, you have to sit there and just look at the other guy, totally still. You're just sitting there. And you can't get up and go to the bathroom, you can't be scratching yourself or anything like that. You gotta just sit there. And you got to do that they time it from beginning to end, 2 straight hours, right? And it could take you 10, 15, 20, 50 hours before you get a 2-hour stretch where you're actually doing it and you feel comfortable doing it and you feel like you're doing it right. Because you're not supposed to be falling asleep or flitting off and thinking about other things. You're supposed to be there comfortably confronting, right? That's the idea of TR0. And so the professional TRs course is the course where you do that for a 2-hour stretch. And then you have to do what's called bull bait, right? Which is TR0 bull bait. So once you've sat there for 2 hours and you've just, you can just look at somebody for 2 hours and not be thrown off or anything, now they're going to start throwing insults at you. The person who's working with you is going to sit there and tell you jokes or try to, they can't touch you and tickle you and stuff like that, but they're going to try to say things that are going to throw you off and make you laugh or make you upset. And if you react, that's a flunk, right? And then you get a flunk, flunk, you laughed, and then they say start, right? And then you get back to it. And you're supposed to be able to deal with, any bull baiting, so that no matter what anybody says to you, you can just sit there and look at them and be there comfortably confronting them, right? And then you do the TR1, delivering commands, and TR2 and all that. And I forgot to mention TR2.5. So TR2 is where you're acknowledging somebody. TR2.5 is when you're half acknowledging somebody, like a situation where you want the person to continue talking. So the guy says, the drill is the guy says something to you, and then you say, mm-hmm, or yeah, or go on. You know, it's a 2.5. It's I heard you, but I want you to keep talking, right? And by giving the person the idea that he's being heard and that you want him to continue talking, right? So that's the 2.5. And then the 3 is the repetitive one, and 4 is the repetitive one, but then they're going to try to throw you off, right? With weird oddball things that they say. And that's those are drilled on the professional TR's course at the toughest gradient, the toughest level you can drill. You just hours and hours of this stuff. So I think in describing these drills, you can see how there could be some value in doing them, how it could help a person who's maybe shy or introverted or you know, has a hard time communicating with people, how it could drill in or train them to be more open, to be more receptive to other people's communication, and to dealing with things with communication. Because when you do that Pro-TR's course, right? And by the way, the Pro-TR's course was the first course I ever did in Scientology. I jumped right to the high level. I don't know why I did, but I did. But when you do that course, you really feel like you can deal with people, right? From in terms of communication, right? Not necessarily like antagonistically, like I'm gonna, you know, I'm gonna deal with people. I mean with communication. The whole point of the course is to teach a person how to handle any situation, no matter how rough, with communication alone. Now, does that mean that you're going to talk down, you know, somebody who's trying to commit suicide? No, you're not trained to do that, right? But you should be able to be, you should be in a position where with your communication skills, you could be easily trained to do that. You know, are you going to talk down somebody who's pointing a gun at you? You know, well, theoretically, if you're well drilled on these TRs, you should be able to do that, right? Now, are you going to? I don't know. I guess it depends on who's holding the gun, you know. But Scientologists think they could. Now, of course, the irony of this is that look at how Scientologists deal with critics. They don't deal with critics, right? You've seen video of them being very antagonistic or just standing there, staunchly just standing there, and they don't handle it with communication. And I think that speaks volumes about where Scientologists are really at in terms of their communication skills, right? So there's a little bit of a, I don't know the word, there's an irony there or there's a contradiction there where they're trained into thinking that they can handle any social situation, no matter how rough, with communication alone. And yet they don't do that. Because when you go protest at a church or you confront a Scientologist and try to ask them about the contradictions and the things that don't make sense or the things that Scientology does that are not good, the human trafficking and all that sort of thing, they fold. They turn around and they run away, right? Or they get very hostile and they want to kick the crap out of you, you know? So I think that's odd. You know, I don't think that bodes well for the actual value of those communication classes, right? So I think it only takes it to a level, but I like all things in Scientology, I don't think it takes it to the level they say it takes it to, right? It's not like you can handle anybody ever with anything, you know, that they come at you with communication alone, right? The evidence doesn't support that that's what those classes do for you. But I do know from personal experience and from having seen others that it does give you a boost in communication ability, and I think that there is some value to it. And I think, like anything, you can take it to extremes, and then you're damaging people, right? And because you asked about the hypnotizing element of it, and I don't think it's necessary to sit there for 2 straight hours, you know, staring at somebody in order to improve your communication skills. I think that's an extreme. I think that's ridiculous. And having done it many, many times, those 2-hour confronts, right? I just don't think that they were of value. You know, I don't think that those were necessary. And I think that there is a little bit of a trance hypnotic element that enters in when you're doing that, and I don't think that's healthy. So I wouldn't recommend that somebody do the professional TR's course. I wouldn't really have a problem with somebody doing the Success Through Communications course. I think those drills are generally helpful, and I've said before that I think the lower level services of Scientology are mostly made up of common sense principles that people can apply in their life that they find helpful and useful. And those are the hooks that get people to then move over to the Division 4 major services and start getting the dangerous stuff. So that's my take on all of that.